At this time, Your Honor, the state calls Brittany Gresham to the stand.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you would please raise your right hand and take the oath.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Please have a seat.
I think it's still good morning.
It is.
Okay. Can you please state your full name and spell it for the court reporter?
Yes, my name is Brittany Gresham, Brittany Gresham.
Please tell the jury where you work.
I am employed at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Division of Forensic Sciences, which is also known as the State Crime Lab.
And in that capacity, what do you do?
I work in the toxicology section.
What is toxicology?
Toxicology is the study of drugs in the body. So we are testing biological specimens, typically blood, urine, but then also some tissue such as liver and muscle and gastric contents for the presence or absence of alcohol, drugs, or poisons.
How long have you worked for the GBI?
It's been about 14 years.
And in your role there, what would be the title that you carry?
A forensic toxicologist.
Okay, so they call you a forensic toxicologist?
Yes.
And can you describe your educational and professional background for the jury?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Georgia, and then upon being hired at the GBI, I underwent a about 8-month training program, which included, but is not limited to, evidence handling, our extractions as we call them, those are the laboratory tests that we perform, instrumentation, and then pharmacology, which is the study of what the body does to drugs and what drugs do to the body.
And you indicated, I believe you said 14 years?
Yes.
Have you always been a forensic toxicologist?
Yes.
And how many cases do you think you've handled as a forensic toxicologist? Estimate.
Thousands. We average about 30 to 40 a month.
Now, you work in which crime laboratory?
Headquarters, which is located in Decatur.
So is there a closer one than headquarters to this office or this location?
There is. There is also a lab located in Pooler, near Savannah, the Coastal Laboratory.
Okay. Does the Coastal Laboratory handle toxicology?
They do, but at this point, they weren't doing postmortem toxicology.
Okay, so as of December of 2022, the GBI Coastal Lab was not capable of performing those services?
They were capable. It was just a decision that was made that they weren't going to do it yet. At this point, they are now performing postmortem alcohol examinations.
Okay, so at the time, they just didn't do postmortem yet, but they have since become capable of providing that. Okay. But at the time of this case, would your location have been the one requested by the GBI to handle those services then?
Yes.
And did you in fact get requested to handle something connected to this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell us, the Atlanta facility, the State Crime Lab, is that an accredited laboratory?
It is.
Can you explain to the jury what that means?
Accredited means that an outside body has evaluated our practices and determined that we do meet the standards of the scientific community.
And what procedures are required to maintain accreditation?
We undergo surveillance visits where they come out and observe us performing our analysis in the laboratory and also observing our case management. They come out every 4 years, I'm sorry.
So they evaluate the laboratory itself, correct?
Yes.
Do they also evaluate the personnel at the laboratory?
Yes.
Who does that? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
They observe us.
Okay, and you said us. Who do they observe specifically?
We have scientists and we have laboratory technicians as well as evidence receiving technicians.
Do each of those different fields have to be maintained and accredited as well as the facility?
No, we're not individually accredited.
Okay, so the whole unit is accredited, but all of those different evaluations get conducted across the agency?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And does that include yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
How often do you personally get reviewed by that body?
Personally, I've been actually observed, I think, twice in my 14 years there. They don't observe everybody.
Okay. So it's a spot check, essentially?
Correct.
So do you know if it's coming?
I'm not sure of the schedule at the moment.
Okay. So my question, I guess, to you is, other than them, who else verifies your work? Meaning peer review. Can you explain what that is to the jury, peer review?
Peer review is the process by which another trained, qualified scientist observes your work before it goes out the door.
Does that happen how often?
100%.
So every single case that you work, somebody else reviews it before it gets passed along?
In the toxicology section, yes.
Okay. Have you ever testified before in court in the field of forensic toxicology?
I have.
How many times?
Approximately 25.
Okay. And in those times, where did you do that? What counties?
Some examples would be Fulton, DeKalb, Gwinnett, Richmond, Chatham, Fayette.
Welcome to Liberty.
Add that to the list.
Okay. And in those times that you were brought to those locations, were you qualified as an expert?
Yes.
Have you ever been denied expert status?
No.
At this time, Your Honor, I'm going to ask that this witness be deemed an expert in the field of forensic toxicology.
No objection. Well, I think she is qualified and can give her opinions in the field of forensic toxicology. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were you asked to analyze any biological samples in connection with this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Before I show you any paperwork, can you tell the jury, how does a sample come into the lab?
A sample can be received at the laboratory via mail, hand-to-hand delivery, or via a lockbox, which operates like a two-way locker. One side of the locker is available to the evidence receiving technicians in our evidence receiving department, and the other door is available to the submitting agency, so either our medical examiners or any other agency. Once a submitting agency puts their evidence in that locker, it's locked and can't be opened again from the outside, and so it has to be retrieved from interior with the evidence receiving technicians.
Is that the case with every single submission?
Yes.
Okay. And so there's no way that anybody could interfere potentially with those samples?
Correct.
Now, ultimately, when those samples are received by the evidence technician, do they get documented with a title or a case number?
Yes, they get a unique case number, and each piece of evidence gets a unique barcode and number associated with it as well.
Okay. And is that unique to every single item on each case that gets submitted?
Yes.
And would there be an overarching case number associated with a case being handled by the lab?
Yes.
How does that lab numbering system work, meaning internally?
It is maintained within our LIMS, our Laboratory Information Management System.
Okay. And when a case number is assigned to a case, if, for example, more than one piece of evidence came in at different times, would they be then attached to the same case file?
Correct.
And they would then bear the same number?
Right.
Okay. So you would know if potentially more items had been submitted and either needed your attention or some other division of the laboratory?
Right.
How many divisions are there in the laboratory? Sections, I guess is the right way to put it.
I am not sure. We have biology, we have trace, we have our firearms division, we have our medical examiner's office. I believe that's it.
And toxicology?
And toxicology. Oh, and chemistry.
And chemistry. Okay. So would it be fair to say that your area and field is limited only to toxicology?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't touch any DNA?
No.
Now, do you know where the samples in this case that you analyzed came from?
They came from the medical examiner after he performed the autopsy.
Okay. So the medical examiner, how would he submit them to you?
Via the lockbox. That's how he submitted it.
So even though he works for the GBI crime laboratory, he still submits a piece of evidence in the same fashion as every other agency?
Correct. Even though the medical examiner's office is under the umbrella of the crime lab, they still submit evidence the same way any other agency would.
Okay. And in this case, did you receive a sample from him that you reviewed?
Yes.
What kind of a sample was it?
I received a liver specimen.
Okay, can you tell us what that means?
During the autopsy, the medical examiner took a piece of the liver and he decided that that was what he wanted analyzed. I believe that he also took gastric contents, I believe spleen blood, kidney, and muscle, but he submitted the liver to the HQ laboratory for analysis.
And did you perform an analysis on that substance?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us what the protocol or standard operating procedure you follow when you receive a sample? How does that work when you get it?
The actual processing of the liver, or?
No. When you receive an item to analyze, how do you get it to go do your review?
We have a management that assigns various cases to us.
So you didn't select this case, it was assigned to you.
Correct.
And when that came, how did you get the sample to review and analyze? Where do you go to get that?
We store our evidence in a locked cold room, so I retrieved it from there.
And in doing so, can you tell the jury what you had to do to process that sample?
Yes, per our policy on handling liver specimens, we perform a 1 to 10 dilution. So we cut a small piece of the liver and we dilute it with water and we blend it up to homogenize it or make it uniform. And this allows us to be able to process it during our extractions or lab procedures.
Can you explain the difference between a physical liver sample versus a fluid like blood? How would you do it with blood?
With blood, you don't have to do any kind of processing with it. We can just sample it the way it is.
Okay. So are there limitations with liver samples?
Yes, the preferred specimen for toxicology analysis is going to be blood because that's what's actively circulating in the system at the time of death, and that's what's going to be affecting your brain.
If there had been amputation or dismemberment, could that impact the integrity of a blood sample?
It could.
Can you tell the jury what putrid means as it relates to toxicology?
Putrid indicates that a body has undergone some decomposition.
And as a result, how would a putrid sample affect your ability to forensically examine a sample?
I don't perform alcohol analysis myself, but it would affect the alcohol result.
So in terms of alcohol, how would decomposition impact alcohol?
The process of decomposition actually creates alcohol in your body, so that's going to skew the possible results.
So is it possible to tell whether that was, in theory then, for layman's term, drinking alcohol versus decomposition alcohol?
Correct, you can't tell.
So you would just know there was some alcohol, you just wouldn't know where it came from?
Yes.
So with respect to this, you then tested the liver sample, correct?
Yes.
And in testing the liver sample, can you explain if the body cavity was exposed, meaning there was an opening in the neck, could that have in some way impacted the toxicology results?
Could you rephrase?
Sure. If the head had been removed and there was an opening to the body cavity, could that have caused complications with any results?
The integrity of some samples might be, some samples might not be of integral value. I know that the medical examiner did take some chest fluid, but he deemed that not suitable for analysis due to the fact that the body cavity was open. And that's one reason why he submitted the liver.
So if you had had blood, would you have used blood?
Yes.
Did you have any blood to use?
No.
All you had was the liver?
That's what was submitted.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jury the specific methods of analytical review that you used? I know we talked about GCMS and some of the other equipment. What are those processes?
To start with, the specimen was screened on something called, on my report, it's referenced as a LCHR-MSMS, which is high resolution liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. And what that's going to do is it's going to separate the components of a mixture, and then it's going to help us identify them via the mass spectrum. The other instrumental techniques that I used are LCMSMS and GCMS, which work similar. The GCMS is gas chromatography mass spectrometry. So once again, they're going to separate the components of a mixture and then help us to identify them.
That sounded very complicated. Is that where you get the specialized training?
Yes, we do have training in that.
And you're trained on how to use that equipment?
Yes.
Okay. So when you do that initial analysis, are you able at that point to determine what, if any, components may be in the specimen?
Yes, our screen looks for about 150 drugs, and whatever is found there will go forward for confirmation testing to determine if it is present above our limit of report.
Okay. Can you test for every single drug that's out there?
No, we don't test for everything out there.
Why not?
Some things aren't necessarily applicable to our casework, and other things we just don't even know are out there yet. So we're constantly improving our methodologies and adding new drugs to our libraries.
So you use the phrase library. Would it be fair to say that in order to know what's there, you would have to compare it to something?
Correct.
So if you ran the specimen and you didn't have a comparison for a particular type of drug, you wouldn't know if it's there?
Right.
Okay. When you performed this, did you recover or see any particular substances that were present during the analysis?
Yes, I was able to detect and confirm diphenhydramine in the liver.
Okay. Can you spell diphenhydramine?
DIPHEHYDRAMIN.
Sorry. I did not mean to put you on the spot. I was trying to help our court reporter. What is that commonly known as?
Diphenhydramine is commonly known as Benadryl.
Okay. So diphenhydramine is the fancy chemical name for it, but Benadryl is what we're talking about?
That's a common brand name for it, yes.
Okay. Can you tell us what the effects of Benadryl in your system may be?
Diphenhydramine is a antihistamine. That's the classification. What it's doing is it's acting on the histamine receptors in your body to prevent allergic reactions from occurring. One of the possible side effects of that, however, is drowsiness. And as such, it has also become a common sleep aid.
Can diphenhydramine be distributed over the counter or with a prescription?
It's over the counter.
And in that over the counter form, is it sometimes sold as a sleep aid and sometimes also sold as a allergy antihistamine?
Yes, ma'am.
What are common names that some of the jurors might know those to be?
For a sleep aid, you might see it in ZQuil or Unisom, or sometimes it's in combination with Tylenol to be like a pain reliever and sleep aid combo.
Now, when it's in a pain reliever combo, would you also see then potentially the acetaminophen, which would have been the pain reliever component?
Yes.
Did you see any of that in this case?
No, ma'am.
So the only item that you saw in the liver sample was the diphenhydramine, the Benadryl.
Yes.
And are you able to determine what's called a concentration?
Yes.
What does a concentration mean?
A concentration is an amount of substance that is present in the specimen.
Okay, so it's like how much is there compared to the rest of the sample?
Yes.
And in this case, did you determine a concentration?
I did.
Does the amount of the substance found impact the effect potentially on a person?
Yes.
So a higher concentration may have a more profound effect or less?
Correct. A higher concentration would have a more profound.
Okay. And what was the concentration in this case, if you know off the top of your head?
May I reference my report?
If not, I'll introduce it first. I'll make that easier. I'll withdraw. I'm going to show you 1.26 that I had marked. Do you recognize 1.26?
Yes, this is a copy of my report.
Okay. Do you recognize that to be your actual report?
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to tender 1.26.
Any objection? No objection.
All right, it's submitted.
Before I get ahead of myself, do you make reports in connection with the work that you do at the crime laboratory?
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you do that?
It's going to be an official document of our results.
Do these get reviewed for accreditation?
Yes, they do review our casework.
And do you also potentially use it to testify in court?
Yes.
How many samples do you think you've done in the last year?
Samples?
Yeah, how many cases do you think you've worked?
Maybe 200?
Be fair to say this might help your recollection as well?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm now going to ask to publish this, Your Honor.
You may.
Thank you. That case number that you were referring to, would that be marked up here in the top right corner of this official report?
Yes.
And would it also indicate at the end your signature here?
Yes.
And the results and the information that you secured in connection with this, that would be listed, is that correct?
Correct.
And is there in fact a concentration that you found of the diphenhydramine?
There is
Okay, and what was that?
2.9 milligrams per kilogram.
Can you tell us what that means?
It's difficult to say with a liver specimen. It's very limited in what you can say. Once again, a blood being our preferred source, since that's going to be what's actively circulating and going to be affecting your brain. Oftentimes in the field of toxicology, we have ranges that we refer to. So we have therapeutic, toxic, and lethal. Therapeutic would be what you would expect to see in the blood if someone is taking a drug as prescribed. Toxic is getting into more adverse effects, perhaps loss of consciousness, disorientation, things of that nature. Lethal is going to be what's consistent with an overdose or death. We have those levels for blood. We don't have those for liver specimens. In a research or clinical setting, you can administer a drug to somebody, draw blood, and draw correlations between doses and blood concentrations. With the liver, you can't do that. You can't give drugs to somebody and then just take a piece of the liver to analyze to make a correlation between. So it's difficult to say what this value is going to mean. What I can tell you is that in a study of 11 deaths that were attributed to diphenhydramine, the average liver concentration was 34 milligrams per kilogram. And this is nowhere near that. So you wouldn't expect this to be a lethal level.
Right. So can you also tell us what happens when a body is dead and it's potentially laid out? I believe you explained to me something about how there's redistribution. Can you explain that to the jury?
Yes, after death and blood is no longer circulating and the body just settles, drug concentrations can redistribute throughout the blood and tissues. So that could be affecting this level as well.
Now, given that this case involves a deceased and a dismemberment where the blood was not available, is that the best that you were able to do given what you had?
Yes, the medical examiner submitted what he had to get whatever kind of results to come up with his conclusion of cause of death.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination, counsel.
Good morning, Ms. Gresham.
Good morning.
I'm Doug Weinstein. I represent Mr. Kassotis in this case. Let me ask you some questions, because maybe I misheard. The state keeps saying the only thing available was the liver. Didn't you testify that the medical examiner drew spleen blood?
Yes, there were some other things that he acquired from the body. If it wasn't spleen blood, it might have been the actual spleen. I could have been misquoting there.
But you had said spleen blood, correct, earlier?
I said it earlier, yes.
What else did he draw from the body other than, that could have possibly been analyzed by you, other than the liver that was provided to you?
Well, there was the chest fluid, which he deemed unsuitable due to the fact that the chest cavity was open. There was kidney, there was gastric contents, there was muscle, and there was brain, and there might have been other things, but I did note those in the case file when I was printing out my materials.
Okay, but you did not receive spleen blood from the medical examiner, correct?
No, those were never sent up to headquarters.
And I understand from your testimony this figure you have of 2.9 milligrams per kilogram. Because you don't have studies, as you said, that can administer and then check blood, that the figure you get, 2.9 milligrams per kilogram for the liver, that really can't tell you much about the level of toxicity, correct?
Correct. I don't know what was actually circulating in the blood at time of death.
So this number is essentially meaningless for us trying to determine the effect of the diphenhydramine on Mrs. Kassotis, correct?
Objection to the word meaningless, Your Honor, is argumentative.
Let's try again. I'll withdraw it.
Thank you.
Can you tell anything from that 2.9 milligrams per kilogram about the level of toxicity?
I can just say that diphenhydramine was consumed at some point.
But you don't know the level of toxicity of that, correct?
This doesn't represent a lethal level based on literature.
Or does it represent a toxic level?
It's nowhere near the 34 milligrams per kilogram, so I wouldn't think it would be toxic either.
If you would have had spleen blood and you would have analyzed spleen blood, could you have made a more definitive analysis of the effect of the diphenhydramine on Mrs. Kassotis?
Objection calls for speculation.
She's an expert.
She is an expert in all out.
Once again, I'm not sure if it was spleen blood or actually spleen that was taken from the decedent, but that wouldn't have very much value either because it's not what's actively circulating in the body, in the blood at the time of death.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
No rejoin.
Thank you. You're excused. Thanks for being here.